Go home, go hard, go home. Touchdown like the end zone. When the circle turn to my home, can't get me out of my zone. Go hard, go home, go hard, go home. Yeah, these championship rings on my hands now. In my head I'm top 10, yeah, that's hands down. You a squad, know you're looking man down. Funny how foes turn to friends now. Drive a race car like a Atari now. Call filling up, I need product again. Treat the business like a playground, might slide on you. Don't me wrong, might slide on you. Do a backflip, cause I'm mad rich. I'm the definition of what that is. Go hard, go home, go hard, go home, go hard, go hard, go home. Touchdown like the end zone. When the circle turn to my home, can't get me out of my zone. Go hard, go home.
Good evening. What is up? How y'all doing tonight? Thank you for coming in, joining us tonight on a Thursday. We are back to our regular time, guys. My name is Harish. I'll be your host tonight, along with my guy, Tim Wayne. Tim, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good, pumped up, ready to see what this weekend brings us, the weekend before Thanksgiving. So, I'm really pumped. How about yourselves?
Doing great. And, of course, we've got our guy, Steven, from Fanatic Perspective. Steven, how you doing, man?
Doing well, fellas. Thanks for having me on. Excited to be here. Fanatic Perspective, gang. We're here in the chat. We're excited to talk ball and talk be here on Longhorn Fan Battle. So thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Well, Well, welcome back to the show. I know we had you on a few weeks ago. A lot has happened since then, so we wanted to get you back and talk to you about a lot of different things. But of course, as always, before we get started here, please, fanbattlesports.com. Of course, we are part of the Fan Battle Network. You can visit us at fanbattlesports.com, where you can get the latest and greatest from the AFC South Fan Battle podcast, as well as all the individual teams on that show, the Colts, the Jaguars, the Texans, and, of course, the Titans. The Mayo-Eaton Titans, they will be there as well. So fanbattlesports.com. Visit us there on there. Tim's got some articles that he should be posting on there as well, so we will get some Longhorns content up there
Absolutely.
for you guys to have on there as well. So fanbattlesports.com. Of course, follow us on Twitter, X, Twix, Snickers, whatever you guys want to call it. Follow us however you guys want to call it. We just hit the 200 follower threshold, so thank you guys for your support. This has been fun. You know, Tim and I, we podcasted for a long time. Took a little break. We got back together right before the start of the season, actually. So to see this show grow as quickly as it has, we really appreciate the support. Fan Battle, follow us on Twitter there as well. And last but not least, please follow us on YouTube, Longhorn Fan Battle. We are live every Thursday nights, 8:30 p.m. I also do like a little side live reaction show every Tuesday for the college football playoff rankings because they're kind of important around these neck of the woods these days.
Oh, yeah.
It's where we're getting to the nitty gritty of the season. Every week matters. And so, yeah. So live shows Tuesday nights, 6 p.m. We go on about 5:45. And, of course, the regular show every week, 8:30 p.m. Fellas, let's get right into it. I don't want to waste any time because we've got a lot to talk about today.
Absolutely.
So let's actually first and foremost, let's just go ahead and cover the TCU versus Texas game, right? Texas goes to Fort Worth. It's a game that, you know, Quinn Ewers comes back. It's kind of what we've seen for the last 3 weeks, right? So we get off to an early start, quick lead, 27-7 at one point, if I'm not mistaken. And then we kind of fumble off into the finish line, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are just, you know, the fan base is one thing, right? We all want to blow out. We want to blow this team out. My first immediate thought is, hey, last year we were blowing these same types of leads, and we didn't finish these games.
Right.
This year, we are finishing these games. We are finishing them. We're getting the W's. We're not getting the style points maybe that we've expected to get. But at the end of the day, the games that were losses last year have turned into leads, right? Or wins, I'm sorry, which right now matters the most, right?
Right.
We're trying to build a culture of winning. I feel like Steve Sarkisian has started to do that, you know, from 5-7 last year, 8-5, 9. And I think we'll talk about this later, but at the end of the week, right, when we come in next week on Monday, for the first time, I think, ever in Steve Sarkisian's career, he's going to have a 10-win season. So, Steven, I'm going to go to you first. What are your thoughts from the game? Just overall, what do you think about the game? What are some things that kind of stick out to you in the game?
Yeah, I mean, look, 9-1's 9-1. I'm going to take it all day long. I know when we did our post-game reaction, there's definitely frustration over, you know, giving up a 20-point lead and having the game be as close as it was. That's frustrating, right? I mean, I think there's separating the greater context of winning, and like you said, of winning each week and establishing that, and we got over the hump, and separating that from, hey, we want to be able to perform and play our best football every single week. That's not our best football. I think those are two different conversations. And the thing is, with this, with the playoff committee and the way the playoffs are structured, I think that adds an additional layer of pressure in terms of not just performance and winning, but how we look. Are we dominating? Are we handling our business against teams that we should be handling our business against? So I give them credit, and the growth that you talked about for our program is certainly there. And that's something, regardless of whether you're playoffs or not. One thing I talked about on my Sunday show is I believe that this TCU game really kind of it made it very clear for me that there's three factions within our fan base. All three factions are happy with 9-1. Let's start there.
Yep.
I don't want to reiterate this. We are all
Absolutely.
happy with 9-1. Nobody is
100%.
bashing that, right? But within those three factions, you have people that are just Texas fans that are like, I just want us to win 10 games. I just want us to win 10 games. I that's great. That's enough for me. Everything else is icing on the cake, extra. I think you have another facet of fans who are like, I want to leave the Big 12. I want to win the Big 12. That's my focus. I think if you're in those first two camps, you don't really care as much about the nitpicking. You're like, dude, survive in advance. Right? If you're in those first two camps and playoffs is not a priority for you, right? I'm talking to the fans right now. Playoffs aren't a priority for you, then, and you just trying to win the Big 12, then we're on track, right? We've got to win out every week. But that third faction is several of us who believe this team does have the potential, and they are good enough to be on that Mount Rushmore, those 4 playoff teams for 2023.
Right.
If some things go their way and they actually play up to potential, like we saw against Alabama. And so that's where a lot of the things of y'all, we can't give up the amount of points we gave up at the end of the games. We've got to be more clutch on defense. We have to stay in attack mindset on offense. We can't get conservative. We've got to clean up the short yardage. All of these things have been consistent problems in every single game. The short yardage, the red area issues, we can go on, right? And so it just depends on those things will bother you so much depending on where you fall, I believe, as a fan. Right. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
I kind of agree with that. I think one thing that to keep and when we talk about Steve Sarkisian's press conference is one of the things right immediately after the game, his post-game press conference, he talked about killer instinct. And I thought there was something really interesting about that, right? This and correct me, both Steven and Tim, correct me if I'm wrong. This is really the first time I've heard Steve Sarkisian mention the term killer instinct, right? It's been about really winning games, finishing games, making sure you're setting ourselves up in the right place to be successful. So I thought that was very interesting. Tim, tell me a little bit about what you thought about the games, just your thoughts as a whole. Anything individually stick out to you? Give us your thoughts.
To piggyback off what Steve said, I've been saying this since the beginning of the season, right? I've been mentioning this from previous podcasts. I've been mentioning this for years now, right? It's all about, again, playing that complete game and just kind of where you fall within the fan base, right? For me, and Steven, you did mention this, I want Texas to be the juggernaut that I know that they can be, right? We know that they bring in the talent. We know that they have the resources. We know that they can develop players. We've seen it in the past. Now, there was a time and a point where players, we had the talented players, but we weren't developing them, right? And we'd seen them flourish in the NFL at the next level versus, flourishing in college. We've seen these flashes, right? But we never seen the true potential of a lot of these players that are in the league right now, right? So that's where I stand again. But at the same time, it's like looking at the basis of like everybody that's playing. There's not too many people that's out here just blowing people out right now. And so to me, again, I'm right there with Steve and that perspective as well as like win. I just want you to win the games at this point. Other than maybe Alabama, there wasn't too many impressive wins over the last couple of days, even the last couple of weeks. So I'm kind of at that point to where I'm like, you just need to continue to win. Yes, they may be ugly wins. You may even let people climb back in, but I'm truly happy with just allowing yourselves to get the opportunity to even be in the conversation at the end of the year, right? To be in the conversation of like, hey, we have a 11-1 Texas team that beat a surging Alabama right now. Like, we can't not miss them, and that's really what I want, right? As a true fan and a former player, that's what I want. I just want Texas to be the juggernaut that I want them to be, that I know that they can be.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I want to get back to Corey Peacock's comment here because I thought this is a very interesting comment. And I want to kind of get your thoughts on this. And I think it's kind of twofold, right? When I look at this, has Texas won these games that they're winning, even though they're giving up these big leads? Or are the opponents losing those games?
If you're getting pressure on the quarterback and the quarterback can't make the play, that's the defense winning you the game. That's you winning the game. If you're Michael Taft and you're making interceptions in the second half where you've been gashed maybe once or twice during the game, you can clearly see them going back to the play or something similar to it. And Michael Taft making 3 interceptions in 3 different weeks at 3 different points of the game, all pretty much in the second half. That's your defense is stepping up and winning the game. If you see CJ Baxter run a 75-yard run or a 54-yard run at the end of the game in the second half, where they need a third down, a big third down, that's your offensive winning the game. Now, could there be other things? Could Sark be more aggressive? Yes, absolutely. I think all 3 of us and everybody in here that's watching, again, thank you for coming, would agree that Sark needs to be a little bit more aggressive, through in the second half. That's been a thing all year. Even with the Oklahoma game, they got to a lead, they got to a little stagnant, and then that was that, right? Oklahoma makes the proper plays. Now Texas is climbing back into the game. So I get what Corey's saying, but if you're watching these games in their entirety, you can see that Texas is there have been times where Texas has won the games, and there has been times where these teams have lost the game. But there have been key elements and key plays in those moments as well.
Yeah, Corey, I disagree. And I see you're pulling examples, but you're pulling one play examples of what happened in terms of the outcome. And you're not considering the entire scope of the game.
Right.
They were dominating Kansas State. They were dominating Houston. They were dominating TCU. There was no question who the better football team was. Texas completely took their foot off the gas. Right. Isolating an extra point. Yeah, and the extra point wasn't for the win. Let's go back and look at that, play. That extra point happened with 6 minutes left in the game. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to isolate, there was a lot of football that happened after Kansas State missed the extra point. The referee situation. Look, I'm not going to disagree with you about the spot in the Houston game, but they still decided to run a rollout with Donovan Smith, who's not, instead of running him, right? Like that's on them too. Like, so isolating one play, I can do that all day long with Texas.
Yeah.
If we want to go there. So Corey, so nitpicking one play and saying, oh, that's why Texas, the opponent, lost the game. No, Texas building up these gigantic leads and physically forcing these teams into survivor mode. Yes. My only problem is Sarkisian, this team and this staff have trouble for whatever reason dealing with teams when they are in survival mode.
Right.
If you can learn how to freaking step on the neck and end the opponent, we wouldn't be having these conversations right now.
Right.
Sure. I think it goes back to what I was saying earlier, right? And maybe, again, Sarkisian for the first time in the press game conference, right, this week said, for the first time that I've heard it, the killer instinct, where it's almost like where that next step of evolution in the program is there. And maybe this is the thing that they learn next, right? Last year to this year, it's learning how to, we are going to give it these big leads, but how do we make sure that we're focused enough to make sure at the end of the day we're coming back and winning these football games?
Sark has touched on killer instinct before, to be fair, but he's really emphasizing it now.
Yeah.
Right.
He's really
calling
emphasizing
out specific
it now.
Examples too, right?
He talked about it last year when we had our issues. But with this season, I think he really knows from a committee, like he's still trying to lobby and advocate for his team.
Sure.
With the playoff committee, he knows what's going on. Texas is trying to play the game.
Right.
So he's also talking to his players through that and saying, hey, y'all, we got to turn up all 4 quarters.
Absolutely.
Right. And not allow one of these, because somebody said earlier we're playing with fire, and that's true.
Yes, I would agree with that as well.
You're not going to keep escaping if you play that way either. So Got two tough games coming up. Iowa State this week, which we're going to talk about. So yeah. I mean, they got some stuff to clean up. But 9-1, if broader context, if you told me right now before Thanksgiving, this is where we'd be, I would take it, and so would you.
Absolutely,
you would take
it. Absolutely.
Funny enough, thinking back to our preseason picks, I had this team going 10-2, with both losses being at TCU and against Kansas State. Right. So I actually had us losing these two games heading into the season. So seeing that these are the two games that we come out of course, I also didn't know at that time that Iowa State was going to be a night game in primetime at Ames, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
This is before I knew that. Obviously, we'll talk about that here a little later. I think this is an interesting comment, and I want to comment on this real quick. Texas needs to play like they've been there before in the second half. They need to know they are the more talented team and keep your foot on the gas. I would argue
that's coaching.
That's coaching.
That's coaching.
But at the end of the day, this Texas team really, if we think about where Texas is this year and where they have been leading into this year, they haven't been in this position as a program in a very long time. Right. Now, they have been here in the sense of getting big leads, but if you remember last year, I believe Texas was 3 and they were not very good in one-score games. This year they're 3-1, right? Obviously, with the obvious loss going to OU. Right. But last year they were like 1-4, 1-5, right? Or something not very good. So I get what you're saying, Joshua, and I think it's a great point that they need to act like they've been there before. But the problem is this program, at the state of where the program is today and where it is right now, they haven't been there before. It's been a long time. It's almost like these guys are relearning what that felt like, because the last time they were in a situation like this was 14 years ago. So it's been a while.
I mean, Texas was 10-2. Don't forget the 10-2 Tom Herman team. Don't do that.
Yes.
I mean, but this is a different program, though.
Yeah, it is.
It is very different.
Del Conte. Was Del Conte even there when that happened? I don't even think Del Conte was on board. Literally, everybody is different. I will say this to Josh, to Hornsby's point about Sarkisian after year 3. This is where I will say I'm not as lenient on the whole they need to learn how to win, and I'm not as lenient on they need to, they haven't been there before, which is why they're struggling with this.
Right.
If we are going to keep it a buck,
please.
This is a thing I have with Sark.
Yeah.
They have been blowing leads since he got here.
Okay, that's fair.
They blow leads like this is now an annual. This isn't just for this exclusive to this season.
Right.
Sure.
I mean, we're 4-1.
Right.
We're 4-1 in 2021, and he blows a 28-point lead to OU.
Right.
The next week against Oklahoma State, they blow a 3-score lead. That's what Casey Thompson and all those guys. Last season, multiple blown leads. This year, the difference is, yes, we're winning. We're also more experienced, more talented, and the other teams we're playing in the Big 12. One of the reasons why we were all confident about us going 10-2 is because we also realized the Big 12 is going to be a little down this year. Right. They're not as experienced. A lot of people graduated. We're now the older team in the conference. We should make that hump. So while I am happy that Sark has still gotten us here on the record, because ultimately the record is what matters the most, and he is accomplishing that.
Right. I
am concerned that trend, he has not figured out that trend. I don't think, I personally do not think it's they got to learn how to, because I don't see other teams blowing leads with the consistency that Texas blows leads. I don't see anybody doing that.
Yeah.
I also don't see as many teams get up by as much as we do on a regular basis, where we just look so good and then we look so bad. That is something they've got to figure out.
Well, we know
if Texas would win a national championship every year, if it was just one half of football played, Texas would be undefeated every year. Every year.
Listen,
Texas
we would be Bama.
Undefeated,
we're the first half Bama, baby.
Undefeated juggernauts with one half of football. Hey, especially that first half, I don't know what it's, and it's the thing, right? Like, and Harish and Steve, like, let me know how y'all feel about this. But with what we've seen with his work since he's been here, talking about Sark and what he's done, do you think he like, I don't necessarily know from a coaching standpoint. I'm not a coach. I've never been a coach, so I don't know. But just from a psychological standpoint, like, he obviously goes in with a killer instinct. Like, why is he not able to get that to continue to go throughout the entire game? Because, we've seen it before, but it's like, it's not consistent. And that's one thing that Steve was mentioning, is like, you've got the talent. We know you can do it, but it's not consistent. And that's
I
an
agree.
issue.
I get
So
what
somebody
you're
asked, are we putting that on PK as well? I think it was William. And I want to get to Mark's super chat too.
I do too. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
I think it's more relevant to the CFP conversation we're going to have here in a second.
Yeah, so we'll table Mark's conversation, but thank you for the donation, Mark. I want to say though, in terms of the PK thing, yeah, PK owns some of that, but Sark is the head coach. Sark is the head. Sark. Well, what people need to understand is, when you are the head coach, that means you're in charge of the defensive coordinator.
Right.
So ultimately, what happens on defense also falls under your purview.
Right. Because this is yeah.
Right. So if we're going to get on Lincoln Riley at USC for his defense being trash all the time, I got to get on Sark is the head coach. Okay. So whatever, you can tell your defensive coordinator how aggressive or how conservative you want them to be, depending on the scenario. And that person it's like, if you're the owner of the restaurant, you tell your chef what you want to prepare, and the chef will prepare it. But at the end of the day, it's on you. The onus is on you to run the business. And that's where Sark can get lost also within himself and evaluating himself as a play caller. I just think that, for me personally, I think psychologically, and I'm going to be real quick with this, I think psychologically Sark gets into a mode offensively where he doesn't want to give up his big lead. He gets conservative. And when he goes out of attack mode, psychologically, so does the team.
Right.
And the defense is no longer, all of a sudden they're not attacking. And I think if he just really, truly, Sark always says, you are what you emphasize. He says that all the time. You are what you emphasize. I want to see you emphasize this. Where's the Sark that dropped 70 points on Texas Tech? That's what I want to see.
I want to see.
That's the Sark I want to see.
That's what I want to see too.
And that's why we're frustrated, because we've seen him do it.
Right.
That's
so
fair.
We know you're capable of it. Sorry.
Right.
Breaking news, and I'm going to spoiler alert. I think that's we get that Texas next week, and I think there's a different type of reason for that, right? But I think that's a very interesting point. The one thing I want to call out, and I think actually, now that I think about it, I lost what I was going to say as I got excited about dropping 70 on Tech again at home. Because I can't wait to do that next week. I can't wait for Brett to come into our stadium and get 70 dropped on him. Going back to what you were saying about, Sark is the guy that's kind of in control. I've talked about this on this show, and then of course on our Colts show. The head coach is basically the manager of the team, right?
Absolutely.
You look at your coordinators and your team leads, and then of course your football team being in management. Like, that's how I think about this. At the end of the day, Sark is the manager, the director, the senior manager, whatever you want to call him, right? That is his role. And when things don't go well, ultimately, it's going to come down on Sark from upper management to start to say, hey, what's going on? Well, Billy Bob Joe's not doing his job. Well, it's on you to make sure that he is doing his job.
Right.
So I look at the coaching tree as it's basically management, right? So I would 100% agree with what you said there, Steven. It is ultimately on Sark, and it is on him to say, look, whatever you've been doing, whether I give you the keys to the car or not, it's not working. So I'm going to take that back, and this is what I expect of you moving forward. And when that doesn't happen, these are the consequences behind that, whether it's, hey, you're not going to call the plays anymore. Hey, you're going to use this personnel. Hey, this isn't working out. We move on. Whatever that might be, right? It's performance management at that point. 100% agree with you with that.
Absolutely.
Any final thoughts on Texas TCU before we move on?
No, happy to be 9-1. And look, it goes both ways, right?
Right.
Sark is also going to get all the credit and the love. If they win the Big 12, if we go out in style, I want to end on a positive note. And then we'll be talking about his contract extension.
Right.
I've always said, I'd rather be talking about extending coaches and getting people more money and getting people rewarded for their performance than us trying to replace coaches and fire coaches. And we need to be looking at this other coach. I want to be having the conversation about, hey, let's lock Sark in for another 3 years. Let's reward him for his efforts here.
Yep.
Let's make sure that PK doesn't go nowhere. Like whoever, right? I mean, people are up for, somebody mentioned in the comments, some people are up for awards on our team and our staff. Yep. That's a byproduct of the success that they've had. So, getting the job done in Fort Worth, even though it was ugly, they got it done. They're 9-1 and ready to move on to Iowa State.
Come on, Mark. Maybe Sark is on DraftKings and edits.
Mark, chill out, bro.
Mark, come on, man.
Mark, chill out.
Listen, we're not Iowa State around here, right? We don't do things like that around here. Anyway, real quick, I just want to touch on two things. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but Steve Sarkisian had a couple press conferences this week leading into the Iowa State game, and there's a couple things that came up that I want to talk about. Number one, he talked about, and this is from today's press conference, he talked about sign stealing and not wanting to look at signs and blah, 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 blah. Head coach to player communication, right? The earpiece, the whole thing. Onward Richardson, I believe, from Orange Blood, shout out to those guys, asked the question. All he said was yes, right? He wants it. He's in on that. It would eliminate sign stealing. He also touched a little bit on finishing games out. He called a couple players out. And then there was a couple of other things that came up that I wanted to talk to you guys about, but I can't think about that right now. So
Can I touch on the sign thing?
That was my question. So thoughts on sign stealing and that thought of player communication.
Yeah, shout out to Connor Stallions for bringing light to this over at Michigan, aka Frank Abagnale Jr. for Catch Me If You Can. Unbelievable. Just craziness going on at Michigan. But I've noticed, and this is because I fall in this camp too. Yep. And thank you for sharing with us the comments there, because I've been traveling all day, so I haven't gotten a chance to hear the press conference, and fortunate to get off the plane and be with you guys. But I've noticed all of the guys in college that are former NFL guys are pro mics.
Oh yeah,
because they know it eliminates the problem. A lot of the problem, right? You can still signal. There's still other signals going on to other players, but it's very minimal. It doesn't, in terms of the entire play and how you want to walk through it. Matt Rule had one of the best comments about this as well. And Matt Rule said, hey, when I was in the NFL, when I was coaching the Carolina Panthers, I could just talk to my quarterback. I didn't have this problem. So we have the technology where we're making all this money in college. It's just that for whatever reason, some of these teams and coaches don't want to have the mics and the helmets for whatever reason. Now we can speculate on what that is, but ultimately, Sark is an NFL. I mean, half Sark's staff is NFL guys. They're like, yeah, put the mics in the helmet. We don't need to deal with all these signs and all this nonsense. So that's where I'm at. Put the mics in there, and let's keep it moving. We have the tech for it. It's baseball, is even evolving in that particular lane as well. Mm-hmm. It's silliness at this point to me.
The one thing that I thought Sark said that was interesting about that as a follow-up is, there are certain schools that could be at a disadvantage, right? And he's probably talking about like lower end FBS schools, the G5 schools that might not be able to afford the technology or as good as the technology. But I think he's mentioned something like that. But as a whole, if the NCAA, which doesn't like to have fun or evolve at all, just funds the whole thing and says, hey, look, this is what we're doing. This is how we're going to make it happen. You've got
your sponsor could take care of the mics. Even if you're a G5 school, you don't think one of those helmet companies or whoever will? I don't buy that.
It's ridiculous, but it's something that he mentioned as something that's like, maybe this might not happen or that might not happen. But I think that's just one thing that he noticed. But no, I completely agree with you. It makes sense. The game has to evolve at some point, right? It's evolved from a business perspective. And So what else are we going to do to evolve the on-field to keep the game genuine? It's a fun sport right now. A lot more people watch college football than they probably watch the NFL at this point, right? And then as you go into next year, these conferences even evolve even more with 16 and 18 team conferences. You got the 12 team playoff that's coming into play. There's a lot more at stake now than there probably ever has been, even in NIL and recruiting and all this stuff. So you've got to make sure that the game is evolving along with the rest of
we added replay in college. It hasn't hurt anybody, right? I remember when that was a thing.
Yeah,
instant replay. We and challenges it's okay. It happened. I remember when people were like, no, we don't want replay in college. It doesn't.
It slows the game down.
And think about it now. Think about how ridiculous, right? Like now, how ridiculous it would be if we didn't have replay. It'd be stupid.
Well, here's the evolution of replay that I want to see. And stick with me here, Steven, and Tim, stick with me here too, right? So, Of course, being an international guy, I am from this country of India. For those of you guys that didn't know, so I watch a lot of cricket. So in cricket, when there's a replay that occurs, it is a live replay. If somebody challenges a call, it happens in real time.
I did not know
and the person that is announcing what is happening is the umpire or the ref that is reviewing the play and explaining exactly what they're looking at. There needs to be an evolution in football, college football, the NFL that does something similar, right? And basically the idea is, hey, freeze the frame right here. What are we looking at? Freeze the frame right here. And it takes 2 minutes. It's actually less time than it is, the replay ref that we have here today. He signals to somebody in Budapest. That guy signals somebody in space. And then that guy gets the ref and tells the guy what to do, right? But in cricket, the way it works is they do it all live in replay. Everybody in the stand and everybody on TV can hear exactly what they're reviewing. And then they say, umpire, you're now on screen. This is the call that you need to make. Make that call. And that's how it needs to work. And I feel like umpiring and reffing needs to make an evolution in football. It doesn't need to be the same thing, but something to that degree.
Hey, look, all we need to do is we just need to follow what the XFL does and just continue on with life. The XFL, they don't really get too many things right, but they get replay right. They do.
I don't know. I didn't watch too much of the XFL last year.
What's their Tim? Explain that for those who don't know about XFL.
Basically, exactly what Harish was saying is exactly what they do. Right? They have, believe it or not, they use an Xbox controller. They're able to go and review the play in its entirety right there, and everybody can see it. Right? So the player, the refs meet at a tent. They basically go in. They have a TV there, a big enough TV where everybody can see. They go in. They look at I don't know, a fumble, a catch. They can look at multiple angles based on the cameras that are there, which is where the Flywire camera came from. A lot of people don't realize that, but that's where the Flywire camera came from. The overhead camera, the pylon camera with the camera actually in the pylon. Mm-hmm. That's where that came from. So they can look and maneuver based on that. And I believe they have like 2 minutes to look over the play in its entirety. And then once those 2 minutes up, they need to make a decision.
They have to make it. Okay.
I like the timer piece of that. I think that's something that can happen. Some of these reviews take forever.
Right. Too long.
Yeah.
Absolutely too long. Yeah.
But I like this. I like this comment, but I'm also going to say, Michael comes in and says, hey, teams will be allowed to use communication technology in non-college football playoff bowl games per The Athletic. I think it's cool. I think it's, again, you're moving something forward. Why does it have to be a non-college football bowl games? Like, I don't want to see this happen in the Poinsettia Bowl, right? I'm curious.
They got to test it out. They use I'm okay with it. They use these games anytime they want to introduce something new. There was something else that they did a few years ago where they tested it in bowl games. I remember North Carolina one year tested heart rate technology and concussion stuff in a bowl game one year. So these are the type of games. Again, they're to me, they're more so exhibitions than anything else. That's where you can really get, because you want to get data first. I don't want to introduce something in a playoff game that nobody's used with no data, right? Like you collect the data, you use that as your sample set, and then you see if you want to interject that into the actual sport the following year.
Yeah, that's fair enough, and I understand. Again, as somebody wants to move the game forward quickly because of how fast it's evolving, I do forget that some of these things just have to be tested before we throw things out in the wild.
Yeah, you got to test it first.
Absolutely.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, guys, let's quickly talk about the college football playoff rankings. Of course, Texas comes in at number 7. They haven't moved in 3 weeks. It's almost like they're boxing out Alabama, right? The win in Tuscaloosa is doing just enough. 2 questions I have for you, and then I want to get to the super chat that was presented earlier by Chad, I believe.
That was Mark.
Mark.
Yeah.
Number 1, and Steven, because we've heard Tim talk about this in the past. Number 1, Steven, is Texas in the right space? Number 2, do you believe there's a universe where if things keep projecting the way they are, that Texas continues to win close, Alabama continues to blow people out, that Alabama jumps Texas regardless of that one?
So I'll take the first question about more so, is Texas in the right spot? At 7, I'm fine with Texas at 7. Oregon has a more impressive. The thing is, Texas has a more impressive win. Oregon has a better loss on their resume, right?
Yeah,
and at Washington. And I said it when we watched. A lot of folks watched that game. May have been the best played college football game I've seen. Now, there's been some really good games since that Washington-Oregon game, but that was a really clean, high-level football game that they lost. They were very aggressive. They went for it a few 4th downs, didn't get it, and they lost the game. So they probably have a better-looking loss, but on the road. But Texas, right now you've also heard people on the committee continue to say Texas has the best overall win on anybody's resume, right? At least for now, because here's the thing. Alabama is, right now I know the Iron Bowl still has to happen and a few things, but we have Georgia, Alabama booked for the SEC championship game. So if we're in a scenario where, let's say Washington wins out and boxes out Oregon, right? Oregon will be eliminated. They have 2 losses. Washington's undefeated, they're in. Florida State's undefeated, they're in. And then let's say the winner of Ohio State, Michigan, that team is in. So now we have 1 team left.
Yep.
If Texas wins the Big 12 at 12-1 and Alabama wins and defeats Georgia, now you got Georgia with 1 loss, who's not a champion, but they're back. But they're Georgia. You got Texas, who's a Big 12 champion that beat Alabama, and then you got Alabama, who beat Georgia, and that's a scenario I don't want to be in, honestly.
Not at all.
That's a very scary scenario.
Situation. Yeah, I don't want that at all.
I don't want to be in that scenario, especially if Texas is, if we don't get to rematch Oklahoma, like we would need to play Oklahoma again to get a dub, right? To at least say we avenged our only loss. Like if we end up playing, let's say K-State or somebody else where, the committee's not necessarily blown away with that causes me a little bit of anxiety thinking about the situation. For Texas, you need chaos right now.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You need Florida State to choke. You need Oregon State to win one of these games. Oregon State has the Civil War, and they play Washington this week.
Yeah,
I need Oregon State to pull out that W.
Somebody needs to do something crazy, right?
Somebody needs to choke, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
And then the pathway is there if Texas handles their business to get in. So right now, there's still so much football left, but last week people thought people were going to choke it, and everybody went chalk. everybody held up last week. Are they going to hold up this
It was
week?
close. Yeah. There was a couple of nail biters there at the end. But the worst thing that could happen in the Pac-12 right now for Texas is that Cam Rising hasn't played a game all season, right? Because now, well, and it could have helped or hurt, but then you're really talking about a scenario where the top is just eliminating each other back and forth because they all play each other. And for a while, it looked like it's there. Oregon's kind of stepped out of that, and Washington, of course, being undefeated. Oregon State, Texas fans, Oregon State's your best friend right now. Billy Napier remembers how to coach. Maybe he can help us out there at the end of the season there with Florida State. Florida still coming up. There's still games here and there, right? And then, of course, you got to – even though Georgia and Alabama are locked into the SEC championship, listen, Georgia has to go to Tennessee this weekend. That's a game that can probably help change – that can help change.
And Alabama has to go to Auburn.
Exactly. Because then now, if Georgia loses this week, hypothetically, right, now you're saying, hey, that SEC championship game is an elimination game because the loser will then have 2 losses, right? A 2-loss SEC champion over a 1-loss Texas, if they win the Big 12, isn't gonna cut it. So, yeah, I would agree. You do need some chaos. We need some different things to happen. But we'll continue. The best thing Texas can do right now is continue to win. Continue to win, gain your style points, stop blowing big leads because I don't think they can afford that anymore. If they go up big in Ames this week, they've got to do that, and they've got to be able to maintain those leads and put these guys.
Harish, I've said this before too, and I think it's interesting. The price to get into this tournament changes every year. It's a different price.
Yeah.
And the price that TCU look at the price that TCU paid to get in is far, far different and far cheaper than the price that we're trying to pay to get in, because TCU did not have to deal at this point in the year. Correct me if I'm wrong. There was not 5 unbeaten teams ahead of them like this. You know, when they were comfortably in. Now, granted, TCU was unbeaten at this point as well.
They were unbeaten themselves, right?
They didn't lose until the Big 12 championship game. But the fact that's the point in itself, right? The fact that they didn't even win their conference, and they were able to lose and had enough margin comfortably to still get into the tournament tells you the difference year over year of what we're dealing with now, where we're behind 5 unbeaten teams. And then a 1-loss Oregon team that lost barely to one of the 5.
Right.
I think the other thing that's different. I think the other thing that's different is every committee that's done this thing isn't the same committee. So what they all find valuable is going to change, which is why, again, to your point, that's why the price of admission has changed, because what people value changed, and the committee, you know, the ding dongs in the committee every single year have a different, you know, thing that they want to value. Last year, apparently, conference championships wasn't something that was valued. This year, it's still yet to remain to be seen. The only thing that we do know that is certain, that has been the most consistent across, you know, the 10 years or so that this has happened, is don't lose 2 games. If you don't lose 2 games, then something can happen, and something, you know, might help you get in there, right? Right. So that's the only consistent thing that we know about the college football playoff.
And no one's gonna. The thing is, the committee, in a sense, they have an easy out. Like, no one's going to crap on them.
Yeah.
Not at all.
If 4 of those 5 remain unbeaten, those are the 4 that are in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then nothing matters. Yeah. Nothing matters at that point.
That's all that has to happen is 4 of the 5, because Michigan and Ohio State will solve itself. And then if Florida State, Washington, and Georgia win out, that's your playoffs.
Right.
Pretty much.
It doesn't matter. And that's tough.
Yeah.
And it goes back to Mark's super chat question, right? And Mark, thanks again for the donation over there. $1.9 super chat. You know, is the committee inconsistent? Is it a resume, or is it the eye test? I think it's a combination of everything.
Yeah.
And I don't think right now, really, regardless of where, you know, 5, 6, and 7 are and how they've been placed, or, you know, 5, 6, 7, and 8, whatever you want to number them. The top 4 at the end of the day are undefeated. The top 5 are undefeated, right?
Top 5 are undefeated.
So if you're talking about, you know, the eye test doesn't, the resume doesn't matter, because the eye test tells you there's a 0 at the end of that, in that second number for those first 5 teams. And
The only thing they're debating right now, which you haven't, keep in mind, this is what we haven't even, no one's even talked about this as much. Have you noticed that we're debating about ourselves,
right.
but the debate really should be the ranking and the order of those 5 teams,
Right.
And it changed
which
for the
eventually
first
will
time.
happen.
It's already changed.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Georgia moves up to 1 because they basically slaughtered
Ole Miss.
Ole Miss, right?
Ole Miss,
who's a top 10 team, right?
Right.
And then Ohio State slides down to 2 because they beat nobody.
Now, do you think the committee purposely slid Ole Miss up to the top 10 to make that a top 10 matchup?
Sure.
I mean, Ole Miss deserved to be there. They were 8-1 going
And at
into
the
the
same
game.
token, 9 and
They
10
were playing good ball.
Yeah. Okay.
When
I
teams at that point,
that.
when teams at that point are losing, you don't have there's nothing they can do. They can go, yeah, we know number 9. Penn State got waxed, right? Let's just call a spade a spade. If the opposite team is just running against you, and you know they're gonna run and you're not gonna, and you can't stop it, they beat you, plain and simple.
You know what else is interesting, fellas, though, before we move to the next topic, is the tiers of teams. Because the way I look at it, right now, there's 3 tiers. There's the first tier, which is the 5 unbeatens. Then 6, 7, and 8, which is Oregon, Texas, Bama, which are your really good 1-loss teams. And then after that, it's like a big drop off. Because I think 9 is like Missouri, which is so really after 8, there's a significant drop off.
Just everybody else.
Really, which makes it interesting. It's like this whole 12-team playoff thing. Like, that's why I've always said my number would be 8, because to me, there's only even 8 teams that would even be worthy of being competitive in a playoff game.
That's
and
fair.
It stops at Bama, because the drop off goes. Now you're talking about very flawed teams.
I think what they're trying to do is a bit of a money grab. You know, like you got the James Madisons and the Tulanes and things of that nature, and they want to include them, get them in. And I get it, I understand. That's why they've gone to this 12-team playoff. But honestly, if those teams don't go undefeated or they don't have these great games, then you're just looking at, honestly, and I could be foreshadowing here, is just a Big Ten versus SEC tournament for who's the best in the league. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it feels like. That's what it feels like.
With Florida State,
they're just kind of creeping off behind the bush.
Hey guys, Notre Dame every 10 years. Like, hey guys, what's going on?
What's going down? What's interesting, even in the 12-team playoff, right? If you guys look at the ranking today and what it would be if a 12-team playoff started today, it's the top 11, and then who's number 12? The best rated G5 team, right?
Right.
So, and that's Tulane, who's the 24th ranked team. Right. That's who gets the 12th spot. So now they're trying to do their own NCAA basketball version of
Guys, so
right?
those teams. You know, you might get an Appalachian State every now and then, like once every.
They spark fire, right?
But I mean, man, I honestly, when I think about it, I kind of agree with Steve. Like, I would rather have 8 than deal with 12. 12 is just that's a bit too much.
There's gonna be some nasty games. I'm just telling you right now. When it starts, it's gonna be
ugly.
Yeah.
And there's probably, even in the first 12, a quarter of those are going to be SEC. Half of it, probably 80% of it's going to be SEC Big Ten teams, especially
which is why everybody's making the move to super conferences. Everything flows together.
Yep, it's all hand in hand. Tim, any final thoughts there on the CFP before we move on?
No, I'm ready to get to Iowa State versus Texas. I got some interesting facts that I want to share with you guys here. So since we're here, again, Texas plays Iowa State 7:00. Is it a 7:00 game? 7:30. 7:00 game on Fox. And there's this one stat that stuck out to me again. I was overlooking some things, and some things really stuck out. But the number one stat that has stuck out to me during conference play, Okay. Iowa State is 24 of 24. So when they get in the red zone, they score every time. They've had I believe 14, they've had 14 touchdowns and they've had 10 field goals all made. That is very interesting. That means that especially within conference play, when they do get to the red zone, they're gonna figure out a way to score. That's dangerous because what that also lets me know is that if they need to go for it on fourth down, they have every bit of confidence that if they're in the red zone and they need to go for it to get a score, they believe that they can do it because they've done it all year, especially in conference play. So that was one of the things that really, really stuck out to me. Texas, as you know, we haven't been the greatest in the red zone at times, where we've given up points. Where we've left points on the table, whether it be field goals, not getting personnel straight, time management not being great at times. But for the most part, we just haven't been that efficient as much as Iowa State has in the red zone.
So that's just in conference play, right? Do you know what Texas's red zone defense has been in conference play? Because regardless of what Iowa State did is done on offense, they're playing this Texas defense on Saturday.
No,
right?
no, and I that was one of the things we know. Texas defense is very good, right? I think their strengths are going to be offensive and defensive line, and I'm putting my money on the Texas defensive line. This is probably the nastiest and the best defensive line they'll probably see all year. And unless they go to a big bowl game where they play an SEC type team where, I don't know. I can't even think of anybody that has the same type of offensive or defensive line as Texas, because they're just, again, they've been the bright spot of the year, I would say. You can throw Jonathan Brooks in there as well. But I don't know necessarily the defense efficiency. I just thought that was
I got you, Tim. I got you. So Texas is second in the country in opponent red zone scoring, 66%.
Jesus Christ, that's great.
We're second in the country. So that means only 66% of the time teams are getting any type of points, right? So that means what? Almost I suck at math, but like almost a third of the time they're not scoring at all.
Right.
Like we're either getting a turnover on downs.
Right.
Like we are negating a score period, which is outstanding in football.
That's great numbers.
So we're second in the country.
That's awesome. Who's number one, if you don't mind me asking?
Let's see.
Probably somebody like Iowa, because they play they score 0 points a game, so they got to defend them.
I wouldn't be shocked if it's Ohio State, honestly. They have a really good defense.
I'll look it up. You guys keep it.
Cool.
Keep going.
Real quick, I just want to touch on this. I want to talk about Jared the lineman real quick. And so for those of you guys that don't know about Jared the lineman is our guy, Jared, the left guard from Iowa State, who basically chomped his gums, right? Talked about Texas and Oklahoma, how we all get all the 5-star guys, and yet, Texas has lost 4 of the last 6 to Iowa State. At the end of the day, he basically said that, hey, I can't wait to play Tavondre Sweat because he's going to eat me for dinner tomorrow night or Saturday night. Tim, and the question isn't necessarily geared towards the actual comments, but as a guy that has played football, and Steven, apologize, I don't know if you played football at the college or level or not. When you talk about bulletin board material, what does that mean to you? How does that play into how you play the game? What does that mean to you?
All right.
Or how do you approach that situation?
So here's a number of things that I could go with. And my man Jonathan Gratton, I played ball with him. He's watching tonight. I appreciate you stopping by and dropping some comments off. One, I'm already pissed off, right? Let me just be completely frank, right? I'm going to Ames, Iowa. I'm leaving the 70-degree weather, right? It's the week before Thanksgiving. I got to go to Ames, Iowa, where it's basically it's flat. Have you ever been to Iowa, Harish?
Yes, I have.
Even have you ever been to Iowa?
I have not. I've never been
It
to Iowa.
sucks.
Well, I went to Iowa for the first time last year. Let me tell you something. Great people, great country, great people, great culture. It's by far one of the worst states I've ever been to. Right? Let me be just completely. The weather sucks. The weather is trash. It's nothing out there. It's not aesthetically pleasing. But yeah, so I would be upset that I'm got to go out there. It's going to be probably 45, 50 degrees out there. The wind's going to be hitting you all up in your butt. And then you got to worry about this guy. Then you got to worry about Jared the lineman. And he looks every bit of as an Iowan as Iowan can be. Like he looks like he was born and raised there, and good for him. But that would piss me off. That would just make me want to again get in there, handle my business. Ain't gonna be too much talking. Ain't gonna be too much jabber jacking and none of that, dude. I'm gonna put my hands on you, and I'm gonna put you on your ass, and then that's it. That's gonna be it. That's it, dog. I'm gonna let you know why I am who I am, why I'm probably gonna be a first-round draft pick, and then that's it, dog. I'm going home. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna get this dub, and I'm gonna go home. And if you get that defensive line like that, that is gonna trickle down to the entire defense, and that's where Iowa State will then have a real problem on their hands. Because we know what the offense can do. We know the offense can put points on the board. But if you get a pissed off,
Tim get me fired up now, man.
Listen, Tim says the stuff he wants you to do. He's gonna make you run through a wall, man.
You get a pissed off defense, they're gonna handle business, and that's gonna be that. Make it a business trip. Make it a business trip.
Hey, Tim.
I'm going there to purposely embarrass Jared the lineman. We're gonna do what we need to do, and we're gonna get back over here to Austin so we can eat our food in some nice, peaceful weather.
I think across the board, if we're being honest, everybody loves the fact that this guy opened his mouth.
That's what I was thinking. They're excited. They're fired up.
Iowa State's backing it. You know what? First off, I'm big on if that's how you truly feel, be honest and tell me how you feel. I respect him for standing on what he said. Now, and also sell the fight. That's my boy Texas Homer texted me that. Shout out to Texas Homer. Texas Homer, we're big in MMA and we watch a lot of boxing and stuff behind the scenes for those who don't know. And sell the fight. You want to turn up and pull up, sell it, right? And you know what? You can't tell me that Bo Davis didn't think that this was great. Somebody calling my boys out?
Yeah.
I don't even need to. What do I even need to do this week?
You don't need to do anything.
The boy already said.
Listen,
the boy called y'all out.
Yeah.
Right.
They already came into it thinking about what happened 2 years ago. You just added to it on top of that.
Right.
So,
you did my job for me. I mean,
we've all seen the Texas locker room, correct? We've all seen how they have the TV screen with their name and the highlights and stuff on it. If I was Bo Davis, I would have Jared the lineman playing on every single TV in that locker room. I have the volume up so that it'll just continue to play. So by the time that they step on the field, because this is a psychology thing, right? By the time you step on the field, you know who that man is. You know who, everything should be. I would run a blitz right off his ass as soon as we get down. As soon as we get the ball on defense, I'm sending somebody right up your butt.
Defer the kickoff. I want to be on defense.
I'm sending a defensive line. I'm sending a linebacker right up your ass as soon as we get on that defensive line. Oh man, I'm doing tight end stunts. I'm hitting him with double teams.
But Tim, here's the beauty though. Last I checked, Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy are the number 1 and number 2 graded defensive tackles in college football this year, right?
Oh, you got two. We talking about
you got 2 of them, right? So to me, at some point, I want them to be fired up and not overthink this. But you guys are arguably two of my best football players. As long as all I need you to do is what you've been doing all year, and we're good.
Right.
Keep doing what you've been doing,
Right.
which is dominating.
Right.
As long as, like, I don't want them to go overboard to where they start, doing crazy stuff and getting penalty. Like, I watched Devondre Sweat literally do something so incredible, getting to the sideline and getting off a block and tackling somebody coming from the nose, and the referee thought he grabbed a face mask.
Right.
No, I was just got there that quick.
Yeah.
Like that's the type of freakish athleticism we're dealing with here. And Sark had to come on the field and be like, "No, big fella, I know he doesn't know how blessed you are that you could get there. He didn't think you could get there without cheating." And then on the replay, you're like, "Damn, like he really grabbed cuz."
The replay of that play just stilled is insane, because the first snippet of it is him. Oh dang, he did grab that face mask, and then you go one little frame. He got the shoulder pad, bro.
He got him.
Wait,
that's T Sweat, baby. Just keep doing what you got. Just keep doing what you've been doing. The people, the last people I'm worried about in this game is the interior guys up front, honestly.
Absolutely.
Listen, I want to send a message that if I'm PK,
listen, just put a target on his back for a couple plays. He'll chill out, and then you move on with the rest of the game. I get what you're saying, Tim.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of the things to worry about, obviously, Jonathan Brooks goes down last week, ACL. That's tough, man. It's tough for a guy like that. You hate to see it. He was having an unreal season. Comparable to what we saw Bijan have last year. He's actually, if I'm not mistaken, and listen, I'm not trying to put Bijan in this light of negativity. He probably was on pace to have a better season yardage wise than Bijan did, if I'm not mistaken.
With the 3 games that they have remaining, I think he was looking to. They were projecting for him to have anywhere from 11 to 1,400 yard season based on his average. They were projecting, had he finished out this game, not get injured, and then he continued on. They were projecting for him to have like a 1,500 yard season.
Absolutely, and again,
he had a great game.
Yeah, I'm going to call it right now, and Tim knows this, right? I obviously had been a fan of Jonathan Brooks since week 1. Tim was in the CJ Baxter fan club. And so CJ Baxter's going to get his opportunity this week. He's going to be the workhorse. He's going to be the guy that kind of carries the load. Steven, what are your thoughts on the run game? How does Texas attack the run game? How much of Alfred Blue do we see carrying, kind of also
Alfred Blue? You going back to – you got the Texans on your mind.
Oh, not Alfred
Blue.
Oh my God,
Blue.
Jeez.
Blue.
My bad. I want to bring that guy back. That's
man. You just resurrected somebody, bro. No disrespect to Alfred Blue.
I don't know how many people in the comments even know who that is.
No disrespect. Anyway,
Jaden Blue. Sorry.
No, it's all good. That was funny. The question though, first off, I want to give my flowers and my respect to Jonathan Brooks.
Absolutely.
When you take over for not just a legend, one of the greatest Texas football players we've ever seen, obviously one of the best running backs in a history that has produced running backs, and not just Bijan, but another NFL running back in Roschon, who was basically your team captain, team leader, emotional spirit, and he replaced those guys.
Yep.
And in a sense of, in his own way though, Jonathan Brooks runs like Jonathan Brooks.
Yeah,
and I think he also he's his own guy, and but damn it, the production was there. And we really we've been leaning on him, and he's been, before this injury, he's already been banged up. Jonathan Brooks has been banged, and that's something he's going to have to. Well, honestly, a lot of guys on our team, but Brooks in particular, when he goes to the next level, that's a thing that teams will have concerns about, because his health, for the limited snaps that he's had, There's always been something going on, right? Whether it was the groin and those things, and now this injury, which is just really unfortunate because he was having an amazing season. He was one of our best football players on a team that's 9-1. That means something. And Jonathan Brooks will not be forgotten. I also want this team, before I get to the running backs, the emotional weight of losing him. I mean, just even Quinn, the trust that Quinn had with him, you know, from a pass pro perspective, when Quinn fumbled the QB sneak against Alabama and Jonathan Brooks recovered it, and Quinn turns around and goes, "I love you." Right? Like, like there's those are those moments where it's like, okay, they're gonna get on the field like, yo, my dog's not out here right now. And that's a real thing for football players.
Yeah.
So they're gonna have to deal with that. Now, sometimes it can uplift, and it's like, all right, let's go out here and get it for Jay Brooks, which we definitely hope they will have that. And sometimes, you've seen it have a negative impact because it's hard to replace a player like that. In the case of Cedric Baxter, he's just a different type of runner, but he's not yet shown the maturity and consistency to really take advantage within what we want to do. Now, if I'm the staff, and this is just me looking at the situation, we now hit the, if we're in the meeting room, we hit the reset button. We say, look, this is you now, but this is ground zero. We'll look at the film and correct some things. But I'm also wondering, can Tashard Choice, Kyle Flood, and Steve Sarkisian come together from a run scheme schematically and say, what does Cedric Baxter do the best right now?
Right.
What does he run the best right now?
Right.
And we may have to scale down. We may not have full menu like we have with Jay Brooks, but we're going to run our best stuff that he does, that he will always read it correctly. He feels better. Running backs run with confidence. The more confident he is, the better he'll break tackles. He'll run behind his pads more, but he's got to get going. Keelan Robinson, a lot of people commenting about him. Keelan didn't play last week. I don't know what the status is of his health. He's not healthy. That's a problem. I mean, it's a challenge, right? If I get anything out of him on top of his normal special teams diet, then great. But Jaden Blue has to factor into the mix here. I'm sorry. He's too talented. And I'm going to say this. Jaden Blue gives me some of that dynamic of, if the play's not there, he can break tackles and just get out of it and just escape, and he can accelerate. And he has speed, raw speed that other guys don't have, even suddenness. It's a thing. Keelan's fast straight line, but Tim knows where I'm going with this in terms of in and out of holes. Jaden Blue has that. I understand that there's somehow been a lack of trust with the staff, with the ball security stuff.
Yeah.
Here's the way I'd look at it. I want my player playing with confidence. And if I'm Tashard Choice, if you get the opportunity to be out there, we're going to have you out there. But I don't want you looking over your shoulder if you put the ball on the ground thinking, oh, shoot, I lost my job. I'm not going to, I don't want you playing football like that. I want you playing football like you did at Klein, okay?
Yeah.
Where you think you're him. That's what I want to see.
You want something.
I don't want to see you.
Mm-hmm.
Now is not the time to go in. You drop a ball, you drop a ball on a screen pass, or you fumble and it goes out of bounds. Now's not the time to be looking over your shoulder, be like, oh, am I going to be getting yanked out? This is a running back by committee. Obviously, we're 9-1. We have an opportunity to do something special. We need everybody. We need the entire running back room to do what we need to do. Just a quick thing here. Cedric Baxter is a one cut. He's one cut. He can hit a hole and get up and move. You got Keelan Robinson. He's your straight liner. You know what I mean? And then you got Jaden Blue. Jaden Blue reminds me of Ramonce Taylor. Ramonce Taylor could do just about anything, but there was some, he might drop a ball every now and then. He might fumble, but that's
a great comparison, by the way.
The explosion is through the roof. To me, Cedric Baxter reminds me of a bigger Jamal Charles. Jamal Charles, if you go and look at some of his stuff, it's very like point A to point B. It's like boom, bam, and then it's like He hits the hole. He's going straight line. He can break you a couple tackles. And then again, Keelan Robinson, he can do just about anything. He reminds me of, I can't really think of what's his name right now, but he's just really, really fast. If you're gonna see any separation, it's gonna be between Keelan Robinson and Jaden Blue. So yeah,
the one thing about Jaden Blue that I think we don't talk about is he also does have the ability to kind of power through and get those dirty yards if you need him to as well.
Oh yeah,
and it kind of goes back to what you said about him doing a lot of the things that we need. Somebody like a Ramon Taylor, right? Taylor, Jaden Blue's not the biggest guy in the field by any means. But the dude can power through for those 5-6 slow yards that you need in order to get them. And I think it's a combination of his speed and just putting his head down and trying to make things happen.
They'll probably lean on a little bit more Savion for that. And we might even see Savion come in for some of the short yardage stuff. Now, teams have jumped all over the Wild Red package lately.
We need to get that out of
there. I need to get it done. It needs to expire.
It's the same thing as the Road Cat. I mean, to me, in football at this level, you only have so many times you can run packages like that until everybody knows your counters, knows your tendencies, and we don't already get the best push up front just in the run game period. So a lot of stuff we have, we're pulling, and he's trying to read and react. But I think if we actually have him in there just traditionally at running back, Savion can help us in that regard as well. So let's not forget about him. But Jaden Blue, to me, can give you an element that you're losing, that explosive element. I don't see that being created unless it's Keelan Robinson running, something out like a diamond formation where he gets a wheel route like he used to get a bunch of times last year. So it's going to have to be a lot more of that. To me, though, Quinn Ewers, this is a big boy game for you in this passing offense.
Yep.
Like,
you got to
they got to step up.
Yeah.
They got to step up. I mean,
this Sark is it right here.
Look, they have to be very patient when they do it too, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a big piece of it. In this type of defense, you're going to have to be patient. Take your little hitch routes, take your little slants, take your little, whatever RPO concepts you draw. You're going to have to take what they give you because a 3-3-5 is built around preventing getting beat over the top.
You know what beats the 3-3-5? 12 personnel.
Oh, yeah, that's another way.
Beats this 3-3-5. There needs to be jet sweeps. There needs to be seam routes to Jatavian Sanders. All types of, if you want to throw screens, this is where you throw the screens. You get your bunch formations. You need to get some bunch formations in there. You need to do whatever it is that you need to do to get to the edge, right? Because listen, I don't care what anybody says. If you're a safety or if you're a cornerback, you do not want to hit a running back all day, all night, especially if you're running the ball heavily in 40-degree weather on a Saturday night. That if you continuously run the ball and you're able to do it well, that is eventually going to open up a big plays for you. This needs to be a more heavily run. The run game needs to be the focal point. I get what you're saying, Steve. But you got most of these guys are going to drop back and cover. I don't think.
Here's the thing. Here's the funny part, though. Here's the irony here. The 3-3-5 has been Sark's kryptonite, right?
100%.
To the point where you got teams, bum ass teams like Houston, that will install the defense just to run it against Sark, right?
Right.
So you got all and Heacock, shout out to Heacock, who's the defensive coordinator over at Iowa State, is the guru, the master behind it.
Right.
The irony here is that Iowa State has been terrible this season defending the deep ball. That's the funniest part. They are ranked. What'd you say?
Fundamentally sound, but they're not like this world beater defensively, right?
What
was that ranking on the deep ball?
And think on passes over 25 yards, it's some metric on passes over 25 yards, and you see it on film. they're like 110th or something, or 115th in the country. They're really, really bad giving up, which is it's just funny.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, the formation also screws with Sark conceptually. So one of those two things has to give. Iowa State not, and the reason why they're giving it up is because they don't have the personnel that they used to have. They don't have an Ainsworth and some of those guys that they had back there in recent years that were.
Yep.
Remember, they had all conference safety. So
They're still
that
building
also
that
goes.
back up. Yeah.
As much as y'all want to talk about scheme all the time, you still need players. And when you lose some of the players that they had, and these guys are here now, and then you had a Will McDonald up front applying pressure and all those guys, it was a great combination. But as Iowa State has lost some of those guys, I don't think they have the same all world, all Big 12 safeties that we're used to seeing, because on film, they're giving it up deep, even with that coverage. So I'm curious to see. That's why with Quinn, I mean, let's be honest. How many times has Quinn seen this defense at this point?
At least
both
6
seasons.
Yeah,
right.
Both seasons. Yeah, at least 6 or 7 times.
So at some point, I mean, something's got to give. I mean, you guys, Kansas was throwing go. Dude, Kansas was getting loose out. I'm like, they don't even have.
Bean was going nuts.
He was.
Bean was going.
It was
Bean
unreal.
Was like 200 yards in one half. So I do remember that. Yeah, I do remember this. Yeah.
I do think this is, again, just another opportunity for X to have a good game. And you know what? As one play that we didn't talk about last week that I thought was really good was the deep ball to X last week.
Yeah, but that's what we expect, right?
Right.
We expect them, and it's crazy because I honestly think that Adonai and Ewers, and I didn't say this last week, but I think they kind of have a better chemistry right now than Xavier Worthy and Quinn. It just, I don't necessarily know. I don't know what it is, but right now it just seems like it. I think they're getting back to, the normal between X and Quinn. But as of right now, I would say Xavier Worthy, AD Mitchell and Quinn have a better deep ball relationship than Xavier Worthy right now. But I think it'll get better, of course.
Here's the thing, too, guys. Here's another thing that can screw all this up for Iowa State, and where I think that, again, I want to see certain guys step up so that I can run the football consistently. Jatavian Sanders being healthier now, you can tell the last couple of weeks he's feeling better.
Yeah,
some of the catches. Yeah, I mean, now he's making contested catches again, getting hit, and he's just blocking seems to be better.
Right.
If Jatavian Sanders is able to eat down the seam, they're going to get what they need to get matchup wise. Iowa State has to deal with that.
Yeah,
and I don't know
set that stuff up. Yeah.
Yes, that's what can set up, especially you talk about 12 personnel. Sark likes to run those deep crossers, and typically with that, it takes a lot of time. And the thing is, with that extra safety can give better help, better leverage. But if I'm starting to mix in some Jatavian stuff, and I'm start moving their eyes over here, and now AD Mitchell can, we can run deep dig routes with AD and some of that stuff in breaking over the middle. I believe with execution and our talent, I don't care what defense they're running. They need to be able to eat this thing up. Now, Sark's only scored, 21 points the last 2 years offensively against Heacock? Because even last year's game, Keelan had, I think, a punt block or something for a touchdown in the Iowa game that we won, in the Iowa State game that we won. So we haven't scored a whole lot. But this is where, again, Harish, you talked about growth.
Yep.
I think I'm not style pointing this game, by the way. I don't care.
No. I don't.
I'm not style.
Style pointing is done for the year.
Yeah.
I just need to see growth
for next week. Yeah.
I need to see growth in terms of how they handle this. I want to leave this game saying, you know what, Sark, that 3-3-5 thing was a myth for him. He can handle it, especially if there's inferior personnel. We can execute and move the football consistently with no problem.
I agree. I think the one thing I want to see regardless of the score, right? Whether you blow them out, I just want to. We haven't seen this team play a full 60 minutes in a very long time.
Right. Yeah. I usually go on my spiel about that, but I'm gonna let you have it this week.
I mean, it's really been since Alabama. I guess it was the last time. I guess the closest to 6. And even in the Alabama games, there were moments in that game where it was just like they kind of drifted off, but they pulled back together. They ended up winning the game, right? They lose the lead in the third quarter, get the lead back immediately, and then close the game out, right? This team has yet to play a solid 60 minutes, regardless of what the score is, right?
Okay.
We still, I want to see that this week. Whether you're going blow for blow, you're going, you're playing well defensively, offense is executing. But in order for that stuff to happen, there's a combination of things that need to happen. Sark needs to call a good game. I'm tired of Sark coming to the mic and saying, I didn't call a good game, or I wish I would have done this differently. I wish I would have done that differently. And again, I'm not expecting to call a perfect game. The players need to execute, because there are plays that the players are not executing where you're like, man, that was a great play that Sark called. But somebody runs the wrong route. Xavier runs a post instead of an out to whatever, and then Malik throws this 80-yard bomb to nobody and it gets picked off. Just like little things like that.
Mm-hmm.
There are still mental mistakes.
Let's add personnel to that as well. Sometimes it's not the play call, is who is the play call,
who's on the field,
who's on the field, right? And it's like, okay, to me, and this may be Texas fan arrogance speaking, but I'm gonna say it. To me, you have enough personnel offensively, even with the Brooks injury, to answer any question, any challenge the defense throws at you. You have the personnel. Now, I don't know how quickly you get to certain combinations and who should be out there and all those things.
Sure.
That that's going to take time, but this 3-3-5, and we'll talk about. You ran a variation of it, right? And in the second half, we picked it all apart. But one of the things that was the solution for us was Jordan Whittington.
Right.
We actually kind of went to 11 and let him cook.
Right.
So there's again, you have personnel when called upon that you can use to defeat some of these things. This may be a Jordan Whittington game.
It might be
where you use them as a chess piece.
Right.
Just don't get stuck on your people where it's like, I got to get X the ball. I got to get Adonai the ball. And then you forget about the rest of all these other infinity stones back here.
Yeah, you got to hold.
But that's the problem they get into, though, right? And I think Sark does this himself. He gets into this like obsession. I like to call it obsession in certain scenarios where he's obsessed with getting X the ball. In certain run scenarios, when Brooks was healthy, he was obsessed, especially early in the season, this weird obsession of making sure CJ Baxter got into the game in certain scenarios, right? In order to do certain things. I'm surprised we haven't seen more Jonte Cook. I'm very, very surprised that we haven't seen a little bit more of him, right? Not saying that he needs to have more snaps than Whittington or do, obviously that's not something that I think should happen. If we're talking about somebody that needs to get a little bit more time on the field to show what he can do, I think this, again, just me saying just what I think. It's a good opportunity to get Jonte Cook.
Do you know what type of conversation that we're having right now? Do you know how Texas Tech would be rolling at the mouth to be like, we got too many weapons, dog. We need to figure out what we need to do. We got to get a
long time.
We need to get the fourth wide receiver on our depth chart, more plays. The freshman, a true freshman. We need to get more of these guys in the mix in the game. Like, again, Texas fans, I said this a long time ago. Please hear me out. Again, we're going to be okay. We just have to, again, play a complete game and things will, and let the dust settle where it may. Before we move on, I do want to know what you guys have as predictions, score-wise, for this game.
Yeah, that's literally the last piece that we got to talk about. So I just want to quickly, Steven, you want to give us your prediction for the game this weekend?
I'm going complete curveball. This game, just out of the blue from what we've normally seen this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've talked about a lot of different things. I think there's going to be a lot of parts of this football game that might be a bit ugly at times. And I think that it's going to take Texas and Sark periods in this game where they have to figure out certain things. And eventually they will exploit certain things.
Right.
But to me, this is where I'm going back to good old Jared. And on that other side, this is the game where I'm summoning the Texas defense. I need more.
Yeah.
Y'all have been very good. Now's the time to be great again.
Yep.
And for the whole game. And
Right.
so my prediction is going to be this. I think because we've been so consistent at hitting that 30 point until last week, he only hit 29. My prediction is 23-14 Texas. So they actually cover the 8.5. They actually, I have them covering the 8.5, but it's going to be a nasty cover where it's a, again, the one thing we haven't talked about, and this is just my opinion, I have yet to see Texas in the last 15 years look good against somebody in cold weather under 50 degrees. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, especially in Iowa. There's just for whatever. So our brothers be looking different out there to me. That's all I'm gonna say. We look, bruh, even when the wind was blowing hard in the Oklahoma State game, we looked so uncomfortable. So for that reason, I'm out. No, for that reason, I'm more inclined to say lower scoring game. We're productive. I'm not saying we're trash. We're productive. There's 23 points, in the context of everything can be sold to a certain degree. But I think this defense is going to come out and be gangster. I think this defense is going to come out and make Rocco look like a freshman again. Rocco's found his, they've got some footing with Rocco in that offense. They found a run game. Right. I think we take away that run game and we make Rocco beat us and we make him look like a freshman again. I think we're going to have some turnovers and cause a lot of havoc for them offensively. And, I think we're going to be able to keep that score down like we were similar to BYU. Okay. Where it was just too difficult for them to score.
Cool. Tim, what you got?
For me, it's Texas 30, Iowa State 20. Again, I think this is going to be Steve hit it right up the nail on the head. We're working on the same wavelength. I need more from the defense, but I think also special teams jumps in there and does some absolutely just crazy stuff. And maybe a blocked field goal, maybe a blocked punt. A touchdown, a run back or kickoff return or a punt return back to the house. I just don't see Texas again just putting up a ton of passing yards. I just don't see it for this game in particular. Again, that 3-3-5, it just, I don't know what it is with Sark. I don't know what it is with Quinn, but I think they'll be able to get a lot of intermediate things. Like I do think Jordan Whittington will get a lot of play. I do think Jatavian Sanders will have over 75 yards, maybe a touchdown, maybe even 2. I do think that there are opportunities for the deep ball, maybe not off the realm. And the temperature Saturday night's game is, I believe, 40 degrees.
Was it 40? Yeah,
it was. I think it's so. Yeah, I think it's going to be 40, somewhere between 46 to 40 degrees at kickoff.
Right.
But as the game goes on,
it's going to get colder. Right?
It's going to get colder as we get later into the night. But I think at kickoff, we'll be at 40 degrees. Now, wind factors in there. I don't think the wind's going to be crazy.
Right.
But it's Iowa.
I think I read somewhere
it is known to be pretty crazy out there at Iowa State in particular with the winds. So that is definitely a factor for sure.
Yeah, and we have to factor in a road environment. This is the last Big 12 game.
Right.
There's certain elements of that too, right? I'm not saying again, you guys talking about only 23 points. I'm just if we score more, I'm with it. Let's go. But they got to show me.
Gas? Yeah, we go all gas. I'll take it.
Somebody tell me the last time Texas turned up offensively in cold weather. I'll wait. Offensively, we've won games and we beat the crap out of people, but it's typically with defense and special teams.
Absolutely. That's why I said defense, special teams. I think this is what calls it. I think this is what makes it, what makes it a game for us. I think this gives us a comfortable lead. Maybe even a muff punt by, I would say. I don't necessarily know, but I feel like special teams will pick it up, and defense will definitely pick it up within this week.
Michael said Nebraska 20 years ago.
Nebraska was
and I remember that game. I know what game he's talking about too.
Was that the night 20 years ago? That would be 02.
That was BY. That was the 2003 season. I think it was 2003 or 2002 because Chris Sims had a game where he went off against Nebraska too.
Yeah.
Or was it? No.
Wasn't there a game where Chance Mock went off against Nebraska?
I know that might be his only season that he played.
Oh, that was against Tech where he went back and forth with them. Okay.
Oh, Major. Somebody
Major.
said
Major.
Okay. Major.
Jesus.
Shout out to Major. Man. Love Major.
Listen, I think this is going to be like a 27-24 game. I'm agreeing. But the problem I have is we're going. It's just like going to Lubbock at night, right?
Right.
I will count on weird things happening, things that we probably don't expect to happen. It's just the nature of playing somebody like this. And just the environment, the last Big 12 game at Iowa State, because we'll never step foot in the state of Iowa after that. It's just gonna be one of those ruckus environments. I think it's gonna end up also being one of those games where Texas gets ahead, right, by a little bit. Iowa State comes back a little, and Texas holds them off. Like right. It is not. There's nothing that I've seen to say, yeah, you know what, Texas is going to get up big and they're going to blow this team out. I think this is the team that we have, right? They're gonna get up ahead. They're going to allow Iowa State to get back into the game a little bit. Maybe it starts off with a 14-3 and something like that, and then they hold them off at the end. I agree. I think the defense is going to play very well this game.
Yeah, good comment. Good comment here by he's going for the corner. He said we kicked Kansas ass last year and it was 30 degrees. And that was the game where we ran like crazy in that game.
Yeah,
Bijan had like 300 yards, right?
All I'm saying is Bijan is not here. All the people that went off in that game are not present. Right? That's the only
they're
problem.
Currently not here. Yeah.
Because you know who did not go off in that Kansas game was Quinn Ewers,
right?
Who was standing there with his hands in his hand. Literally, we stopped throwing the ball because remember he was a disaster. He was a disaster in the Kansas game, right. And then we literally they went crazy around the ball. So that's funny though. I need to see it, but with this we are gonna have to throw it. I don't think we're gonna be able to turn around and run.
Right.
In that manner for three. Now, if we do, then that'd be crazy.
Right.
Great job.
Listen, if all we do is run the game, we just, if all we do is run the ball for 300 yards, man, we might put up 50 against Iowa State.
I'll take that. I'll take
it.
And
I'll take it. I just don't
get in and get out. That's it.
Yep. Yeah, I think our last load is safe for next week. Honestly, I really do think that's just a different scenario, and there's a special game waiting for Tech in Austin next week. But anyway, guys, before we get out of here, why don't you tell us where we can find you, Steven? Let us know where we can find you.
Absolutely. So thank you guys for having me. Fanatic Perspective for all the Longhorn Fan Battle listeners and the Fan Battle Sports Podcast Network listeners. Fanatic Perspective. On YouTube, on Twitter, Facebook, all the social media, TikTok, everywhere you guys find content. Love what we do over here and just get an opportunity to talk about my favorite teams, which is one of them being the Texas Longhorns. We also do a SEC Connect show as we are moving into the SEC. We have a weekly show called the SEC Connect. Myself, Ty from Around the Table Sports, Jay from Unfair Sports, Nino from Nino's Corner, and Chris from Horns Down. So we got those guys on there where we talk all SEC things. We were on last night, and been working with Bleacher Report. So we have a weekly national college football show on Bleacher Report. So download the Bleacher Report app. We will be on Bleacher Report on the app at 1 p.m. Central Time, I believe, 2 p.m. Eastern this week. 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 12 p.m. Central Time on the app, picking all of the games. So I'm on Bleacher Report every single week, picking all the games on Bleacher Report. So y'all come holler at your boy and support your boy over there as well.
Absolutely.
Tim, Harish, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Absolutely. We appreciate you coming on. Tim, where can we find you, man?
You can find me on Twitter. Let's talk, let's talk football. It doesn't matter who your team is. Let's talk football. Let's, keep it classy, but show your pride. If you want to talk football, you want to talk college football, we're praying that we get this college football game to come out pretty soon here. So if you want to talk about that, feel free to reach out to me. I know my man Harish been playing that college football revamped recently. Don't necessarily know how you like it so far, but you've said nothing but great things, but I don't know, like, play wise, how you liked it. But hit me up at Tim Lane on Instagram, on Twitter. I'm more active on Twitter, so just hit me up on Twitter. Let's talk.
Cool. You guys know me. For those of you guys that don't, you can find me on Twitter at the Uncle Gandhi. Also find us on Twitter at LH Fan Battle. Listen, we just hit 200 followers, so we appreciate you guys. As we continue to grow the show, we want to do a little giveaway at 250. Sure. Hey, we appreciate it, man. We appreciate you.
That's all my man Harish there.
We've got some guests lined up. We've got Steven on today. We've got some other folks trying to come on in the next few weeks, so definitely stay tuned for that. We will be doing a little small giveaway at 250 followers. So please follow us on Twitter at LH Fan Battle. Follow us on YouTube at Longhorn Fan Battle as well. We'd love to grow that as well. We are live every Thursday, 8:30 p.m. Central Time. Hey, Steven, again, thanks for coming on tonight. We really appreciate you having us.
Always a good time. Always a good time.
Especially traveling. Hope you get some rest. Always a great time. Longhorn Nation, that's it for us. My name's Harish. That's my guy, Tim. We out of here. Peace.
Phil Gabriel.
Welcome.
Go home. Touchdown like the end zone. When the circle turn to my home, can't get me out of my zone.